Hi.
Hello, sir.
Ed Case. Nice to
meet
see you. Aloha. How are you? Good to see you. Okay, thank you.
I was coughing into my hand.
How are you? Ed Case. Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for coming. Howdy. Aloha.
Good evening, sir.
How's everything with you?
Above ground, not underground.
Okay.
That's a good thing.
Me too. Aloha. Hi, Ed. Nice to see you. How are you?
Yes, sir.
Ed Case. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming. Oh, wow. What do we got here?
We have Nanea and Lulana.
Nanea and Olana. Are you coming to Ulana?
Lulu. We call her Lulu.
Lulu. Okay. And you are?
I'm Keala.
Keala. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Is this just a place to do a little homework, or are you actually coming to
We're
do
here for the meeting.
civic engagement?
We're here for civic engagement.
I mean, I'm happy to provide a place for homework, but
Well, we really appreciate the work that you do.
oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Aloha to everybody. It is great to, number one, be back in Hawaii for a week and get out of the cold weather in Washington, D.C., both literally and figuratively. I am Congressman Ed Case. I have the great honor of representing you and over 700,000 of your fellow citizens in Hawaii's 1st Congressional District, which stretches from Makapu'u in the east to Mililani in the north and to Kapolei in the west. A very incredible district, a very great district. I love representing the 1st Congressional. And I am beginning, believe it or not, my 11th year in Congress. It's hard to believe that it went that fast, but I'm in my starting into my 6th term, full term right now. I had a bit of a 7th term as well, so I'm actually getting a little bit of seniority here. Welcome to another of my open community meeting talk stories. This chance to spend time with you personally is, to me, critical to my job. It's critical to my job. If you add up all of the time that I spend in 1 year, I spend over half of my year out of Hawaii, in D.C., sometimes other places in the world. I spend about 5 months here in Hawaii, kind of shuttling back and forth. Probably spend about 1 month on a plane. But that takes me away from you a lot. And it's 5,000 miles away. It's not as if I represent suburban Virginia and I can get home for the PTA meeting on a Wednesday night. I've got to know kind of what's in your head. I've got to try to keep fresh on the concerns in my community so that I can act on them in DC, sometimes on very, very short notice. And I simply need and want to stay in touch with you. And so this, number one, is to keep you informed on my activities, and number two is to listen to your questions, answer your questions, and really get your guidance. I hope by the end of this week, with this and 5 other talk stories throughout the week, to have absorbed a lot of what I need to go through a very, very difficult time, of course, in Congress. And so the logistics of the evening are, I'm going to try to update you from no more than about 30 minutes max, although I usually exceed that. And then it's your time, and we're going to leave time for you to just sit here and ask me whatever you want, make whatever comments you want. We're going to end at 8 p.m. If you want more information or if you need assistance, you can always reach back out to me through my office. Please be sure to get the information that we have at the front desk there on how to access my office. I also have a very, very full website at case.house.gov that has a lot of information in it on what I'm up to, including many of the issues that we are going to talk about tonight. And it also provides an avenue for you to get back in touch with me by email, by phone call, whatever you want. I do want to introduce my great staff. I have a full staff both here in Honolulu. I have a district office in Honolulu, downtown Honolulu, which you're welcome to visit. Meet with me personally if you'd like to do that when I'm back home. I also have a great staff in DC. So I have in the back of the room there Tim Nelson on the right, who's my chief of staff. He's from DC. He runs my whole shop, and he is out here for these to listen to this with me. Jackie Conant right there next to Tim is my deputy chief of staff. She lives and works right here in Honolulu, runs all of my district stuff. Kira Empting is right there. Kira is one of my 2 great constituent services folks here that help you directly with your problems. Juliana Cheska, right back there, signing people in, also does constituent services. And then we have the very famous Nestor Garcia over here, who is my communications consultant. And we are taping this in part because I try to do an Olelo show once a month on what I'm doing out there in the community. So that's what we're doing here. I also just want to note that I've got many partners in elective office. I've got, a governor, a mayor, city council members, state legislators, and a part of our government that I particularly appreciate, our neighborhood boards, because that's where I started and that's where I think the rubber meets the road. We have Larry Verrier of the Pearl City Neighborhood Board, chair and member, and many of his colleagues on the neighborhood board. So thank you for your partnership in particular. I really enjoy our relationship. And I don't think I saw any of my fellow state reps or state senators, anybody here. Yeah, you're not here, but they're here in spirit. And we have a really special guest tonight, which is very interesting to me. We have our Japan Consul General, who represents the government of Japan, the country of Japan, Yoshinori Kodama. Mr. Kodama, if you would please introduce yourself. We, of course, have a very, very long and very deep history with the great country of Japan. And Japan maintains a very active consulate here to assist citizens here, to interact with our government here. And Mr. Kodama got a notice of this talk story and decided he wanted to see what American democracy looked like. And so he's going to, I guess, get a taste of a slice of American democracy, but it's great to have you. I don't think we're going to have this issue here tonight, but I'm going to say this anyway. I asked for your agreement on how we kind of conduct ourselves in this discussion. And this is among fellow citizens, okay? We're all citizens of this country. We want a great country. And we are needing to have these discussions in a time of great division and polarization, great anger and fear out there, where many times discussion is very difficult. All you have to do is go on social media. If you want to, you can go on my social media and see what I'm talking about. A lot of stuff is thrown around. And frankly, it's not conducive, in my view, to getting things done. I'm about getting things done. I hope you are too. That doesn't mean we're going to agree on everything, but it does mean that the issues that we have to deal with are hard enough for us to get through without us basically shouting at each other and shouting down a discussion and not having discussions. These are things that we have to discuss. We have to understand each other. We have to listen to each other. And I want to do that here. I want this to be aspirational democracy, as we want our country to work. And I think we can do that. And so I'm asking for that courtesy. This should be a safe and respectful place for us to talk. And a few understandings will help. Again, I doubt I have to say this because I think we're all on the same page here. But I have done talk stories, in all honesty, where they've been far more, angry and antagonistic. Very difficult to have a good conversation. So there's obvious stuff that we would do in our families, that we would do in our businesses. Please respect what everybody has to say. Please don't clap or boo if somebody says something you like or don't like that can inflame the situation. No personal attacks. We don't need that. And then finally, if you're making a point or asking a question, please kind of, don't go off on a 15-minute speech or anything like that. We've got a discussion to have, and a lot of people want to be a part of that. So I really that'll help us and me really appreciate your understanding that. Okay, I always like to start with what is my mission? Yeah, I mean, if you have a job, if you have a goal, you've got to kind of describe what it is that you're supposed to be doing and where you're trying to get to. And I've got 3 parts of my mission. The first part of my mission is what our Constitution, our U.S. Constitution, says my mission is. And my mission is to represent you in our federal government in making the decisions that need to be made for our country. So that part of my mission is national leadership, and it touches every single part of our country, whether it's something that we really particularly care about here in Hawaii or not, whether it's something that I'm involved in or not. I am still called upon to represent you in national leadership. That is fundamentally my job, and you've chosen me for the moment to represent you in doing that. And I take that very seriously. But I also have two other parts of my job. The second part of my job is my obligation to help Hawaii, to assist us with our issues, with our concerns. Now, many times that falls into probably the most important part of my job, which is my service on the House Appropriations Committee. Appropriations under our Constitution is delegated to Congress. The President cannot appropriate. Congress does the appropriating. And that within Congress is delegated to a Senate Appropriations Committee and a House Appropriations Committee. And I'm starting my 7th year on House Appropriations. So yeah, there I'm getting a little bit of seniority as well. And this is critical because this has a $1.7 trillion federal budget that we have to divvy up every year. And so clearly, I'm going to try to make the right decisions for our country, and I'm going to try to make sure that as those decisions are made, Hawaii's needs are taken care of. We have seen this in spades with 3 straight crises in the last 5 years here in Hawaii. We had COVID, we had Red Hill, and we had Maui. And each of those was $2 billion plus. Of federal funding and you know, climbing, right? So COVID is pretty much over. Red Hill is ongoing, and Maui is still very much with us, and that has been very much about trying to make sure our federal government is helping us here in Hawaii. Then the third part of my job, which we sometimes call casework, is what we call also constituent services. It is my obligation and my office's obligation to help you with your individual concerns, Many of us have interactions with our federal government in the areas of Social Security, veterans benefits, immigration, obviously taxation. And frankly, the federal government doesn't always get it right. Sometimes you can't get an answer. Sometimes they misinterpret your situation. And our job is to try to help you get the answers you want and the result you want where it's appropriate for you to get that result. And every single day of every year, my staff and I do all 3 of these jobs: national leadership, help Hawaii, and help you. And that's what we continue to do. So I talked about my mission, and frankly, my mission never changes. It doesn't change based on who the president is. It doesn't change based on who's in the majority in Congress. It doesn't change based on who my colleagues in the Hawaii congressional delegation are. I still have to do my mission and my job. But it's very clear that how I get that done depends a lot on the times and the circumstances in which I am working. And I think we all just have to agree among ourselves and the rest of our fellow citizens around the country that we are in a very, very difficult and critical time for our country and our world, but especially for our country. We do have deep division and polarization. We have, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of anger and fear. I mean, our country, uncertainty, you can even call it chaos if you want to. Pretty acute at this time as we just got started with another appropriations cycle. I talked about division and polarization in Congress. Now there's a place to disagree on partisan issues and there's a place to have debate, but there's also a place to try to get things done. And I'm a member of, for a second Congress now, vice chair of a very interesting caucus called the Problem Solvers Caucus, which by rules has to be composed equally of 1/2 Republicans and 1/2 Democrats. And we meet and we try to figure out whether there are issues that we can actually contribute a solution when things get stuck. We've been very successful in some of the big bills and problems we've had over the last couple of years. And so I am going to try to make that work. Now, it's going to be frankly harder work in a more divided Congress, but I think it's work that I would hope most of you would agree would be worth my time. We all here in Hawaii care a lot about the Indo-Pacific. We live in the Indo-Pacific. We are part of the Indo-Pacific. Our common heritage of many of us comes from the Indo-Pacific. We look west rather than towards Asia and the Pacific far more than we look east towards Washington, D.C. and the continent. And this is part of our kuleana, if I can put it that way, to our country. Also, we're the best in the country at working with the Indo-Pacific because of our proximity, because we are a Pacific country. And so I do spend a lot of time trying to make sure that our relationships with the countries of the Asia-Pacific region are strong, that we are operating and acting collectively towards oppression from countries such as the People's Republic of China. I have a particular focus in the Pacific Islands, which have been neglected, frankly, over the last several decades. The islands of the Pacific, Melanesia, Micronesia, Polynesia, that are our own heritage here. And I spend a lot of time in the Pacific Islands Caucus, where I co-chair that caucus to try to provide a common approach to that. And then finally, I would mention the environment and natural resources, which I very much believe is part of our kuleana as well. We are dealing with the effects of climate change right here in Hawaii more acutely than many, many parts of our country, especially on our coastlines, but not exclusively. We are seeing massive changes in our natural flora and fauna because of climate change. We also, of course, to the coconut rhinoceros beetle example, suffering greatly from invasive species and endangering our own species. And I think this is something that we all owe a common responsibility to. So that's just 4 examples right there. A focus on the economy and the cost of living, my appropriations committee, the Indo-Pacific, environment, and natural resources. As I kind of wrap up this introductory part, and I'm almost at 30 minutes, I see, I want to highlight casework again. Again, that's the 3rd part of my mission, constituent services. If you have an issue that you're not getting an answer to that involves your government, especially your federal government, please call us and we will try to help you. Now, I get calls from people saying, you know, my garbage didn't get picked up. And so that's obviously the federal government's not running garbage. But we can at least get you to the right place. Many folks just don't know where to turn for an answer. Now, we work with all of these people. We can get you in touch with your garbage collecting city council member. We can point you to the state government where that's a state issue. And we can directly help you with your federal government issues. Again, the common areas would be immigration, Social Security, Medicare, passports, immigration, Veterans Affairs. We do a lot for our veterans. We have 110,000 veterans that we represent in both districts throughout Hawaii and your ohana. Many times you have very specific concerns. So give us a try on that. We have served many. We can't get done something that shouldn't be done, but we can at least get you an answer. We've had a lot of successes, and some of them have been, actually all of them are gratifying in one way, shape, or form, but some of them have been literally life-saving and life-changing. So give us a try on casework. Again, resources for further information, my website, case.house.gov, all kinds of stuff in there. My regular e-newsletter, I send out an e-newsletter district-wide about once a month. I try to average about once a month. I report on whatever I'm doing. Every 2nd or 3rd e-newsletter, I'll do a survey that I'll just ask for your anonymous feedback. It helps me to guide me in some of the things that I'm doing. I ask questions that are relevant or that I'm just wondering about. I'm just trying to do a gut check on what my constituents believe. Email me at ed.case@mail.house.gov. That's in my website. And then finally, I run social media. So I've got all the social media. I've got Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube. I think those are my 4 at RepEdCase. You can find it easily if you search it. I usually post once a day. I try to post something once a day that's something of interest or something that I'm doing. And so I really would appreciate your taking a look at that, because that's a very easy way for me to reach you on a daily basis. Okay, I am at 30 minutes. So this is your time. This is open season. As you can tell, I run this a little differently from a lot of my colleagues. There's nobody over here taking note card questions and censoring the the questions. I'm pretty much open to whatever you want to talk about. And what I'm interested in is what are your thoughts on the issues? What are your questions of me? Your questions of me educate me on what your concerns are. And then finally, what do you want to tell me? This is feedback time. Again, please be short. We want to be sure that we accommodate everybody by 8 o'clock. And again, I'm sure that everybody here will be respectful and courteous.
Lastly, probably the number one thing that a lot of people experience, a lot of townhome people here, is the insurance premiums. I don't know what you can do for that, but I know we're going to be lobbying, with Governor Green and the state legislature. I predict what's going to happen here if we don't take action soon. We've got to start our own insurance for Hawaii. We're low risk compared to the mainland, but the Los Angeles fire situation is going to catch us. And what we saw this last year with premiums going up to 300%, our homeowners, our senior citizens can't afford to pay those the high maintenance fees and any other fees that were put against them. And what happens is that, for example, if the maintenance fee goes up from $600 to $1,000, that doesn't go away for the next year. And the seniors don't have that money stashed away. And what I'm afraid of, what's going to happen is our seniors that have all these years worked hard, paid for their townhomes and their residential homes, what's going to happen is that we're going to start to see, because if the maintenance fees are $1,000, $1,200, nobody wants to buy that townhome if they sell it. And if they decide that they want to leave Hawaii, what's going to happen is I see the property values going absolutely down. Right now, the average townhome around here in Pearl City is $650,000. I can foresee that going down to $450,000, because who's going to pay a $1,200 maintenance fee? So I'll leave it at that for other people to come up with. I don't know what you can do with that, but you have a great relationship with Governor Green. I think the solution is, for years, we all paid into our premiums and everything. Insurance companies paid all their CEOs 15% in the top. That stuff's got to go. We need to be putting money in our premiums into Hawaii to have our own people manage it. Insurance companies got to go.
Yeah, I just met this morning with Gordon Ito, who is our insurance commissioner, the state insurance commissioner. He's actually going to retire on Friday, and so his deputy is taking over. Also, former Speaker of the House, Scott Psyche, who actually came into the state legislature with me and Nestor a long time ago. We were all freshman classmates in the state legislature, has agreed to come back to try to help out in the insurance area. And we had a very long and productive discussion. And obviously this is not news. This has been going on for at least a year plus. And so let me kind of give it to you straight as I see it. First of all, the federal government has not, for the most part, gotten way into the insurance area. It has left insurance mostly to the states to regulate, because each state has its own conditions, has its own risks, and sometimes it just, you don't need a federal standardized approach on this stuff. The feds have gotten in on comparable occasions. For example, some years ago we had a series of very devastating floods, and there was no insurance available, and the feds stepped in and created the federal flood insurance program, which is a federal insurance program. That program is not working very well, to be honest. It is unsustainable on its current path. So, question whether we want to do that at the national level for property and casualty insurance. I don't personally think so. But there are things that we can do at the federal level. For example, the federal quasi-financial institutions, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, that buy mortgages from our local banks. So they kind of are the secondary, bankers. They have said over the last year that they will not buy a mortgage that doesn't have insurance for 100% of replacement value. It used to be about 75%. And I'm not sure that that's actually, I understand why they did it, but I don't know whether they needed to do that. Now that has chilled a lot of the market that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. After that, the reality is that we have had far more natural disasters in the last 5 to 10 years than anybody thought was going to happen. And you can argue about why that is. But for me, it's pretty obvious that our climate is changing in ways that are creating wildfires, are creating floods, are creating hurricanes at a frequency and intensity that we never had before. And that risk, the consequence of that, combined with much higher rebuilding costs, so materials, et cetera, compounds into higher premiums. And I think that's going to be a new reality, if you want to put it that way. Now, I think what the question is can we find a system that kind of, holds that new reality to what is absolutely necessary to actually insure people at a reasonable risk? Concerning you, what is motivating you, and what your ideas are for how we deal with this great, beautiful country of great diversity and difficulty that we're in. And it's especially important for me because being on the broader level, I spend a lot of time trying to make sure that our relationships are sound, that we are advancing, especially with the Pacific Islands themselves. A lot of people pay attention to Japan and Philippines, and that's good. But we've tended to neglect the Pacific Islands, our own heritage in the regions of Indonesia, Melanesia, Polynesia for a long time. So I've formed a caucus, which is a collection of representatives that come together for a specific purpose, which we call the Congressional Pacific Islands Caucus. Now, this is not only good for our country, it's good for our Hawaii, because as our country focuses more on the Indo-Pacific and its needs, our Hawaii benefits in some of the institutions that we have here that service that relationship. So think things like the East-West Center, the University of Hawaii, UH West Oahu. There is a tangible benefit back to us here from doing that. And then finally, I do try again to focus on how to overcome the political polarization and division inside of Congress. And one of the things that I'm a member of is actually the vice chair of. So this is another caucus, interesting caucus. We call it the Problem Solvers Caucus. And it's been around for about 6-7 years, and it is a group of divided equally Republicans and Democrats. It must be equal. They come together to try to forge solutions where we can. And we have got various rules to try to hold us together, to try to avoid the tendency for everybody else to pull us apart so that we're in our respective tribes, right? And we kind of say no to that. So we've been very successful in areas such as immigration, some of our national deficit and debt issues, which is another key issue, as well as in infrastructure development and funding. So that's way too fast for some of the issues that I dig into, but I hope it gives you some idea. We can come back to anything you want. Before I kind of close my initial remarks, I just want to highlight constituent services again. Please use us for that. If you have a question especially about the federal government and your interaction with the feds, ask us. If you have a question about anything, chances are we'll at least be able to find the answer for you. It may not be our kuleana, we may not be able to, directly do anything about it, but we can certainly find you, actually can do something about it. Again, the resources, my website, case.house.gov, regular e-newsletter. You can email us at ed.case@mail.house.gov, which is in the material. Take the material. Please follow me on social media, and please stay in touch. Great to be back in Mililani with you all, and thank you so much for coming and facing the impending storm outside. So I hope you all get home nice and safe. Please do that. I am Congressman Ed Case. I am very proud and happy to represent you all in the United States Congress. I represent Hawaii's 1st congressional district. You recall we have 2 congressional districts, and I have number 1, which has about 720,000 people in it, including all of you. My district extends from Makapu'u in the far east through the urban center of Honolulu up to the borders of Wahiawa right up here. So I have Vilelani Mauka and Launani, and then up to the Tech Park, and then it turns into the 2nd Congressional, and then I kind of go down through Waipahu all the way through Ewa Kapolei to the edge of Kapolei. And that is, of course, Honolulu's urban district, I suppose we'd call it, but for all intents and purposes, our congressional delegation works across district lines. A lot of our issues are statewide issues, and so I think most Americans, including my constituents, believe in legal immigration, but don't believe in illegal immigration. I think most Americans believe that we've got a significant problem in securing our border. That is worsening the situation around the clock in many ways. I think most Americans believe that there should be some accommodation of children born of illegal immigrants that through no fault of their own, we call them the DACA children. We've got about 360 of them right here in Hawaii. They have legal status, and that they should have a status. And so there's lots of things that I can agree with the president on and the country on in terms of trying to put together a comprehensive immigration reform policy. Now, I may disagree with some of the ways that he's going about it, and I don't think we have to do it in such an angry way, but I don't have a problem at all with the end result. So I look forward to working with the president on that.
I know you're aware that all 50 states are border states. So with that, are you going to be partnering with the Trump administration and his leaders in Homeland Security and ICE? Will you support that effort, especially from an appropriations, perspective? Because every department needs money, right?
Yeah.
So, where would that be in terms of your priorities?
Well, it's a priority, and it's also and I said earlier that I believe our border security is insufficient, and we have to toughen our border security along with other things. So if you're asking me if is that the only thing I care about in immigration, no. I want comprehensive immigration reform, which frankly has elements in it that are some strongly supported by Republicans and some strongly supported by Democrats, and many strongly supported by everybody. So when you get to the tough decisions in Washington, you've got to put together a collection of ingredients in an issue that nobody's going to like all of it. That's how you get things done, and that's what I want to do in immigration. But on the subject of border security, I'll say it for a 3rd time. Our border is not secure. We're not able to manage who's coming across our border and under what circumstances, and we have to be able to do that. And actually, it's not just a priority, but it's a particular obligation, because one of my 2 subcommittees on appropriations is the Homeland Security Subcommittee, which directly funds all of these agencies. So, ICE, Customs and Border Protection, Border Patrol. And so I think there are 10 of us on that subcommittee. So we're responsible for the entire federal budget. Right. And so I'm going to be in the thick of this one.
So now that everything has shifted, we should get some Republicans in, representing us. I'm not saying you're not doing a great job, but I just hope that you keep be open and don't forget about the people that live here just because we're not Democrat and we vote Republican. So that's all I have to say.
First of all, I really appreciate being here, and I really appreciate what you've said. That was pretty powerful. I listened to you. I've said a lot of things in response to you already. This is who I am. So first of all, I'm not going to compare myself against any of my colleagues or anybody else. This is who I am, and it's your right to decide whether you want me to represent you or not, number one. And number 2, I do have my political beliefs, my political philosophy that I'm open about. that I think is a pretty moderate political philosophy overall. Thus far, the voters have sent me back, including, I suspect, a few Republican voters. I am not here, again, I'll say this, I'm not here to just do whatever Trump wants me to do. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to exercise an independent judgment with guidance from my constituents on whether I think he's doing the right thing or not do the right thing. And if I think he's doing the right thing, I'm going to support him. If I don't think he's doing the right thing, I'm not going to support him. It's kind of that simple. I'm going to look for solutions that are not so binary, right? Because I think a lot of our problems actually can be solved if we just kind of get away from the division and the polarization and do a little bit of basic discussion and compromise. Your guidance. So that's my number one job, is national leadership. And that's what I have to do that regardless. Every single issue that comes before Congress, I have a part in, because I am charged with making those decisions.
Back when Puerto Rico was hit by a big hurricane in President Trump's first term, I think he signed an EO that exempted the Jones Act for Puerto Rico. Could that be a temporary possibility for these non-contiguous states till the bill?
It could be, and in that case, as you pointed out, the Jones Act prevented emergency supplies from getting to Puerto Rico, which is one reason why the delegate from Puerto Rico is one of my co-sponsors on these bills, because they understand the impact. I think it would be unlikely that a president would do it kind of generically. They may do it in very specific circumstances. And this kind of does infuriate me. I'll give you another, sorry about this, but I do get kind of exercised on this issue, because I just think that it's unnecessary, and it just adds so much cost to everybody's pocketbook. When we defueled Red Hill, we needed to transport most of that fuel to other parts of our world that didn't require Jones Act shipping. So we could go out there and contract international flag tankers to come here, pick up the fuel, and take it to another part of the world that was not a Jones Act location. So we dispersed all that fuel. But there was one thing that we needed to do. We needed to get one tanker and have that tanker take fuel from Pearl Harbor to Barbers Point. What is that, 10 miles? And it could have been so easy for one of those international tankers to just come in, pick it up, take it down, come back, and go wherever they're going to go with another. And that had to be a Jones Act tanker at incredible expense. And I asked for a waiver on that. I said, no, why should we do that? Why should we spend all that money? And they didn't grant that waiver. But anyway, the idea is that you can get waivers, but it's not going to be a permanent fix.
Just one more thing. Housing. So here in Hawaii, big housing crisis. When Ho'opili was planned 20 years ago, or the conversation was about 15 years ago, it was proposed to the public as affordable homes for local families. As of right now, a lot of military families are in Ho'opili. From what I've heard, many of them qualify for affordable housing programs because their housing allowance isn't counted as personal income. And so that's that causes an impact to Hawaii's housing market. Is there a possibility of focusing on fixing all of those homes, those abandoned homes on military bases, and bringing our servicemen and women back on base to free up the housing market for families?
We're trying to, and it's a really good point, because when we take a look at our cost of housing, we have to ask, okay, well, who's using this housing, and who's competing with local families for the housing? And there's two primary, maybe three, 2.5, I would say, because one is not as major, but there are two primary sources. So the first one is the military. And Representative Takuda and I just got back from the military a report that we mandated them to provide to us, because we weren't getting a good answer, so we kind of ordered them to do it in law. And that report was basically, well, how much is the military taking out of our local housing supply? And the answer was that of the Oahu private rental housing, The military does own fee simple homes here, just doesn't do that very often. It has about 1 to 2% of the fee simple homes. The answer was 14%. So 14% of all the rental housing on Oahu is occupied by the military. And I don't begrudge them that. I mean, you want the military to be able to have some housing options. It's a recruitment and a retention issue for the military because not everybody wants to live on base. But nonetheless, 14% is a pretty big chunk. And so there really, two parts to that. First of all, we are trying to build military housing on military bases as fast as we can. We've got major military construction projects, for example, at Kaneohe Bay, Marine Station. We've literally spent hundreds of millions, billions of dollars really in the last 5 years on this. And so that's helping to relieve some of that pressure. But the other problem we do have is that the housing allowance that the military gives to its people to go out there and live in the community is based on kind of a market rental. And so if the housing allowance is a high one, that brings up the market rental, which jimmies up the housing allowance, and you're in an endless cycle. And I think really that this report has really prompted us to go back and look at a much broader range of solutions. Now, I didn't know what you just told me, which was that a military base pay, which has been lower, right, qualifies the military for affordable housing under these projects. So that's news to me. So that's something I learned from you, and I'm going to go chase that one because I'm not sure that really should be. By the way, since I'm talking to two of my fellow legislators, by far the biggest problem here is vacation rentals. Much more than the military. They occupy far more than 14%, and that's a problem. So I hope you guys continue to think about reasonable restrictions and enforcement on vacation rentals because it wreaks havoc in the housing market. First of all, if I can work with this administration to get something done that I believe is the right thing for our country, and I believe that you believe.
I'm newly retired, was retired on January 1st. I am getting Social Security. I'm on Medicare. So now I'm really personally concerned about it because I'm on it now. It wasn't just an abstract concept.
Yeah. So the first thing I want to say is nobody that's on Social Security or Medicare right now, I don't think that that's a legitimate worry. I don't think that anybody that I know in government is trying to reduce benefits for Social Security and Medicare for anybody that is on it today or that's anywhere close to getting it. That includes President Trump, if I am to believe what he has publicly said. And I'm not sure I always do, because I don't know what's happening with the people around him. But I know my colleagues in Congress. I have lots of relationships in Congress. I work on Social Security and Medicare with Rs and Ds. And the reason I do that is because, although I think I can say that fairly confidently today, in fact, our Social Security and Medicare systems are increasingly approaching a crisis where they are running out of money. We have been running a deficit in Social Security and Medicare for decades now. We've been kicking the can down the road for a long, long time now. The Social Security trustees, so this isn't me talking, this is the people that actually are responsible for the Social Security Trust Fund, which is the fund that we all pay our Social Security taxes into, which is supposed to hold those monies and then turn around and pay them out as people need their money. They say to us that as early as about 2023 or so we're not too far away from 2023, they will start to run, 2033. Okay, sorry about that. We're talking about, 8 years away. They say that absent congressional action by then, they will be forced to reduce benefits then for existing and people coming into Social Security by about 15%.
I'm wondering, you talk a lot about compromise And I think that's a laudable goal. I was curious, especially in your role on the Appropriations Committee, if you see areas of compromise with Republicans on climate change. Because I'm an oceanographer, my research involves the carbon cycle and climate, and you're talking about making sure our kids and grandchildren have Social Security and Medicare. I'm more concerned about my kids having a stable climate to live in. And so I was curious, we can't really wait 4 years to be doing things. So what areas of progress do you see?
I wish I had an answer for you because, first of all, I believe climate change is occurring, and I'm not under any illusions about it. I'm not trying to deny it. The scientific evidence is pretty darn clear. It is affecting us immediately in many ways. We've seen examples of that all over, from our oceans to our land, to our air. And so I'm not a climate change denier. And we have compromised in federal funding to continue to support initiatives that are designed to combat climate change. For example, the Inflation Reduction Act, which President Trump is trying to reverse right now, was the most revolutionary bill ever, actually, in terms of trying to move us away from a purely fossil-based economy to a renewable economy that would reduce climate change. And by the way, that was a bipartisan bill, right? So that arose from compromise. And sometimes you have to go to some kind of lengths to do it. For example, my colleagues on the other side, because they're too concerned about standing in town halls like this in other states that may have a different perspective on this, and justifying expenditures on climate change research and resiliency, they word searched the entire 1,000-page appropriations bill. Anytime they came to climate change, they changed it into extreme weather and called it a day. If they want to call it, Blue Sunday, that's fine with me as long as we get the job done. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do some of that, but I mean, clearly, President Trump and his administration has directly targeted climate change, right out of the box. So I think it's going to be, unfortunately, 4 years of winter in this area, at least unless we can get a better check and balance. We have seen particularly deep divisions and particularly deep polarization in our public fabric. Good.
My name is Corey. As someone who sits on the Appropriations Committee, one of 53 members?
Yeah.
Okay, somewhere in there. Can you explain to us the justification for well over $800 million every year going into this massive quote-unquote defense budget, riddled with waste, mismanagement, outright fraud? It's my understanding the Pentagon just failed its 7th audit in a row. It seems unconscionable to just keep shoveling our money into this.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I've got kind of maybe 2 answers to you. First of all, it is very expensive. National defense is very expensive. And I don't believe that in principle we should substantially reduce our national defense given the world that we live in and our role in that world. Many other countries are our adversaries, and I think we've got to have the strongest national defense that we possibly can. That does not excuse waste in the Defense Department. That does not excuse fraud. That does not excuse inefficiencies in the Defense Department, lack of prioritization, and that has been a critical discussion within the Appropriations Committee. For example, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle want to substantially increase the defense budget right now. I don't agree with that. I don't believe that we need to substantially increase our defense budget. And I do believe in relative parity between defense and non-defense. And so, I guess I'm giving you kind of 2 answers, right? Because I don't believe, I don't know, you didn't exactly say it, but I don't believe in a substantial reduction of our defense budget right now. But I do believe very much that our taxpayer dollars should be spent wisely. I can send you the actual memo if anybody's interested in, but what would that do to you if you were a federal civil servant that had been working for a long, long time? You were given 10 days to decide on your future. You're a productive member of our community. This was indiscriminate. It was sent pretty much to everybody. It was not targeted. There were stated exceptions for military service, which should be obvious, and national security professions. But other than that, there was no information. So that's floating out there right now. Now let's take the actual result here in Hawaii. That 25,000 federal civil servants are working really across the federal government. So FBI agents, U.S. Department of Agriculture, inspection for invasive species, affordable housing for federal supported affordable housing, natural resource protection, our national parks, Pearl Harbor Memorial, Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard, our largest employer at 6,000 local jobs, great jobs, Red Hill, defueling and closure, and I could go on and on. So this is a real risk. Now I think this is illegal also, aside from bad policy, aside from just being cruel, really, if you want to put it that way. It's thrown our federal civil service into great angst. They've come to my talk stories, they've talked publicly about this, but it's illegal for the same reason. It takes money to accomplish this severance package that the president envisions, money that has not been appropriated by Congress. But you can't promise you're going to do something if Congress has not given you the resources to do that. This is also under challenge in our federal courts. So, one area where I think I can work with him, immigration. Two areas where I just think he's dead wrong, and here I am saying so, and working with my colleagues to try to oppose those particular initiatives.
And I'm worried because I know he's deporting all the illegal immigrants. But who's to say he's going to do a mass deportation and then take legal, immigrants? So if this should happen, I don't want my grandson to be without a mother. It's really concerning.
Yeah.
And I'm at the point where I'm retired. I retired from the City Ethics Commission, and I work part-time from home for an estate attorney. And I just put in, I just spoke with one of the best immigration lawyers here in Honolulu. That I might start doing some work for them because I'm really afraid.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if there's anything you can share about that.
Thus far, I've heard absolutely nothing from anybody about any plan including the Trump administration, about any plan to deport any citizen, whether or not naturalized, and nor about deporting anybody who has legal status in our country. The focus is on people that are not in our country legally. So the focus is not on a citizen, a green card holder, a H-1B visa, some of the lawful status categories like our DACA children. So I don't think if your son-in-law, was it?
My son.
Your
His
son.
wife, yeah,
And
she's still a Chinese citizen.
Well, if she in this country, if you don't want to say, that's fine. If she's in this country legally, then I don't think she's at risk. And by the way, I would say to everybody who's a green card holder or here legally who has a pathway to citizenship, at a bare minimum, you should try to get there as fast as possible, because we have a lot of people, because you don't really know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it could well be that Mr. Trump turns around and tries to go after, legal status people, or to trim down the number of people who can convert from, or to try to change the law on green card holders. Green card holders by definition can become citizens when they want. And I think there's a lot that, I know people that are green card holders who have been green card holders in Hawaii for 30 years. They just want to hold both ways. They want to kind of have your cake and eat it too. And I'm not sure that's such a good idea nowadays. That's my personal advice.
And I have emailed your deputy, Jacqueline, who's done a great job of emailing me back. And my issue is housing. I think it's a misnomer just to assume because it's the east side that there is not housing problems and housing assistance. I suffer from a neurological disability, and so I do receive Social Security disability, but recently my rent has doubled here in Aina Haina, and even though the property is not really taken care of, is there anything the federal government is doing or recognizing just the cost of housing? I mean, I went to university, I've traveled throughout developing countries and have taught English, and it's not as if I'm someone who someone would think would be the standard one who is at risk for homelessness, but actually I am at risk for homelessness. So what is the federal government doing to recognize these issues of housing and rental assistance?
The federal government has several programs that relate directly to trying to help people with housing, especially in highly challenged jurisdictions such as Hawaii. We have, for example, the Section 8A housing voucher, a rental housing voucher program, which basically subsidizes folks that need housing. We definitely have some programs of rental assistance. We contribute to the funding of transitional housing as well as low-income housing. We're full partners with the state. By the way, all of these programs are endangered at the moment because
yes, the voucher program is not working right now. They're not taking anyone.
And so, definitely from a housing perspective, my own kuleana is can we sustain and improve these federal programs, which are under attack by the current administration. But I will also say to you that housing is a frustrating issue for a lot of different reasons. But one of the frustrations for me is that like most other issues, there's a federal component, a state component, and a county government component. And nationwide, the federal government has not been as involved in housing, with good reason, because I don't think we can run a national federal housing program. But there's a ton of stuff that your state and county government could be doing still, with land use policies, with entitlements and restrictions on new development, with rental housing assistance, with basic zoning laws, with vacation rentals in our communities, which are driving down supply and driving up rent. And so there's a whole range of issues that, frankly, 80% of the answer to housing is in the state and county governments, not in the federal government. So please go talk to your state and county government officials about that.
Thank you so much for all you've done.
Thank you so much to everybody. This was great.